welcome to another edition of the WTF Sunderland Review Show. Unfortunately, this time, for the first time since the second week of the season, it is to talk about a defeat, which we will get into. But first of all, I am joined by Pete Oliver. How are you doing, Pete?
I'm all right, Ross. I'm not too bad. It's never great after a defeat, but it's one I think we'll just have to take in our stride.
Yeah, I agree. Sophie, you were there? You all right?
Yeah, I'm alive and well. Just about. But yeah, it's just one of them, isn't it? We're just gonna have to put it in the bin and move on. Frustrating afternoon, I think that's gonna be the word I'm gonna use for it, but we'll pick the bones of it, no doubt.
Definitely, definitely. And last but not least, Dave Lawrence. How are you doing, Dave?
Yeah, very well. I'm a bit disappointed because I don't like football this weekend, so I thought this was a crazy golf podcast. So that's a bit of a shame, but we'll talk about a few holes here and there. Sophie, you said that's your second away game. Quick question. First away game, did you win or lose?
Draw.
Okay, that
Swansea.
is that is the third option, but 1 point out of six. You're a bad luck charm. Stop going away from home. Thank you very much.
Will do.
It was Sophie. Just to clarify, that is Premier League only. Sophie has been to loads of away games last season. She's not just here for the glory now we're in the Premier League. Um, so yeah, we'll get into it. It was I think it's frustration, like you mentioned, that's going to be the word of the day. But Pete, after digesting it, we are recording, like say, a few hours after finished. How do you feel about the result in general?
I would say, yeah, we probably got the result we earned during the game. The way we started, we didn't really deserve anything from it, and it could have ended up being far more if Regis hadn't made the change when he did. It really needed making. Um, I'm going to look for some positives. Obviously, I think we have got an absolute diamond in Robin Roofs and the goalkeeper. What he did there was brilliant. I think it also changed it massively, being able to bring Dan Ballard in there and the threat that he gave us in the opposition box as an attacking threat, not just as a defender, ensuring everything up. But we can't argue with that. Look, I got a message from a good mate of mine. He's Man United daft, and he's one of the ones you can't really hate because he's from like literally there, right next to it, and he went from being a Ben and everything. Um, and yeah, he said, "What do you think of that?" I says, "Yeah, fair enough, really fair enough." The penalty, the Trey Hume penalty, is it? I mean, as soon as I saw the angle where you see him not get kicked in the head, I went, "He's not going to give that." So as excited I was initially, and then the initial deflation that comes from it, I don't think we can really argue with it. Look, there's loads of arguments going around saying that the letter of the law is if the boot is high, it's an intent immediately, and that means that it should have been a penalty. Clearly, they've seen something that didn't. Yeah, look, I don't have too many grumblings about losing today. I hope that they're going to pick up the lessons from it. I think we have concerns about Arthur being a left back. I think there's definitely got to be concerns there. He's not going to slot in and replace Reinaldo when Reinaldo's not available and Dennis Serkin's not available. So there needs to be thoughts about what happens there, or do we always start with the back three and the wing backs? But yeah, look, no real complaints for me after the performance that was put in. You don't win away at Old Trafford, even against a Man United going through what Man United are currently going through. When you perform like that, and especially in the first half an hour or so.
No, I totally agree. I think you've hit the nail on the head on a lot of points there. I think to me, you could kind of put it as two kind of games. That first half hour, where let's be honest, we were miles off it, apart from the first 5 minutes where we passed it around quite nicely. And then from when we went to a back five, we proved we could cope with their attacking threats, which we clearly couldn't in the shape we were in, with the personnel we had on the pitch at the time. I think it was a very brave move to make the changes he made, but also there was slight tweaks in there, weren't we? We were clearly playing the wingers a lot higher. At times it seemed like a 4-3-3 because you've seen Traore and Adingra especially really close to Isidore, and I think that left the likes of Masuaku and Hume very exposed. in my opinion, anyways, it seemed to look that way from what I could see on my short-term trip to America whilst I was watching the game today. What about yourself then, Sophie? What did it look like from the away end? Who, by the way, I've got to give a shout out, sounded fantastic on the stream all the way at the end. All you could hear was the Sunderland fans.
Yeah, absolutely. We stuck with the team, which I think's always, you know what, we can't complain, like what Pete said. You know, you put in a performance like that and you don't deserve to win away, particularly Old Trafford. It is a tough place, and don't let the media tell you that Man United are rubbish, because they've got some really good players. It's as simple as that. But I felt like, you know, that first 20-30 minute period when they got the goals, I did turn to my dad. I was like, "Oh my god, this is going to be a demolition!" This, because we just look so pedestrian, and particularly like Arthur, bless him, he was just getting almost doubled up on at times, and yeah, I just don't think he suits being in a flat back four. And fair play to Reggie, you know, credit where credit's due. He obviously recognised, because he was on the touchline. I kept looking over at him because I had quite a good view down that kind of side, and he was making hand gestures and he went running back to the bench. And the next time he came out, he was with Ballard. And you thought, and I said to my dad straight away, I was like, he's got it wrong and he knows he's got it wrong. So I think there's two words come to mind, and it's what if. Because I think what if we'd adapted that style and adapted that kind of second half performance in the first half, I think we could have been sat here discussing a different result, or at least a better all-rounded performance. But I just think it was frustrating. We just gave ourselves a mountain to climb, really.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there with the mountain to climb. But once, of course, it's brilliant that he had recognised it. But unfortunately, those two goals, it was basically game over them on it. And let's be honest, if it wasn't for Robin Roofs, it could have been comprehensively even more game over at that point. Dave, what do you think of it all? I think we've probably covered majority of it, but anything else to add on that? And how did you see it?
Yeah, we'll go from a manager's point of view. Has Reggie Lebris been out Reggie Lebris? I think he has. I think Ruben Amorim absolutely deserves a little bit of credit for once, because if you look at every single attack that they've had for the first 25 minutes, all down our left-hand side. It's as if they've recognised that Masuaku's on the pitch and we're going to pepper him. It absolutely helps that the world's best footballers playing out on the right for them. We all know how much we love Ahmad and hope he comes home one day. But I think it was clever. I think we've made it easy for them. I really do. But when something's working, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Unfortunately for Amorim, he's probably that naive that it's going to come to next week and he's going to keep giving the ball down the right hand side. And he's coming up against the world's best left back and it won't go right. But today, I thought he got it right. It is good to see that we've got a proactive manager. Well, it's not proactive, is it? It's reactive. But he got it wrong. We got into the game, but to be honest, the second half highlight reel's pretty grim viewing, isn't it? I think they said there was no kind of shot on target for either team until the 84th minute. Jesus, that's a little bit miserable. And I have to say, the two goals that United have scored, it's absolutely pathetic defending. I won't lie. The desire that we've had in previous weeks and stuff is not great. And then from there, lack of experience, naivety, Mayenda with the shot which he blazes over the bar. He should be sliding it down the side to Hume. There's a million and one. But funnily enough, Manchester United are a pretty established Premier League club, believe it or not. It's not bad to be getting beat off them. We all know we're not going to get it right 100% of the time. The one thing I'll give us, and we have done well for a number of years now, is reacted. And I really like the little bit where the second goal went in. They're having a players' meeting out on the pitch. There's a few little points. There's a few little kind of calling each other out. I got time for that. We already know that these lot care. I think they'll try to put it right next time they can.
Yeah, I think we've all basically been on the same lines, haven't we? And I think we've got to start with where Regis Labrie got it wrong. We've spoke about it a bit in little bits. I think it is fair to point out that Masuaku did struggle, but I think it's also worth acknowledging that Adingra was hooked because I don't think he was helping him out at all, to be honest. I don't know if that was stylistic, the way we looked because we were so high up. Again, Dave mentioned it really well. They did always seem to have two on that side, and Wermo seemed to move over that side quite a bit. Ahmad was playing very high up the field, but I did feel sorry for him because yes, he did struggle at times, especially like he didn't know who to track basically because there was two over there every time. But I also feel like he was kind of, how can I say it? I don't want to be too harsh on Labrise because he's got so much in the bank credit wise for what he's done so far, and this is probably the first Premier League game you can say, yeah, Labrie got that one wrong. But I do feel like he kind of exposed him a lot. It was his second game for us. It was his second game of the whole in a long time because I don't think he played a preseason at all, really, did he? So he's up against Ahmad and Wemo, who are two fantastic attacking footballers in the Premier League. Adingra was giving him zero cover, and I do feel like, of course, he's going to be compared to Reynaldo, who Reynaldo, when he played before his absolute brain fart against Villa, everyone was saying is one of the signings of the summer and how good an experience he is. So it is a concern in a flat back four, but I also feel like today, for me, Labrie kind of made them little tweaks that went away from what we were doing so well, being compact. Pete, do you think Labrie maybe got a bit carried away with how poor Man United had been at Brentford, and maybe got a bit excited with how expansive we could be against such a team like that?
Look, I'm not going to second guess Regis Bruce following what he's done so far at the helm. I don't think he got it right today at all. That was clear from if your side's going down by two in such a short period, clearly something's not correct. I think he expected less from that Manchester United team. I think this, and that's not based on anything arrogant. That's not based on him being out of line with what he would have seen previously. I think Sunderland have played some really, really nice football. There's a reason why they have started to turn heads in the last week following that Forest win. That unfortunately, because I was quite enjoying flying under the radar, but media that previously hadn't been talking about Sunderland had been talking about them. So he would have gone into this game thinking they are where they are in the table, Sunderland are where Sunderland are in the table. There's no reason why we shouldn't go at them. Perhaps he was a little overconfident with it, and certainly I think he didn't have. It's having the resources to carry out the plan. And like we said, Ronaldo probably has been one of the signings of the season, despite him losing his head completely and getting that red card. So, yeah, what if again, Sophie? I mean, you've absolutely nailed it again there. It is all down to what ifs that game because it's what if we had Ronaldo being able to play in that position at left back like he has done, where he's able to, he plays in about 9 different positions when he plays there, as opposed left full back in a flat back four. You've also got the what ifs with Traore missing that chance. You've got the what ifs with Ballard missing that header. I mean, I thought it had gone in. Absolutely thought it had gone in. And you mentioned Meander at the end there. I think there's another one. I counted 4 proper good chances that we had. And, one of those goes in, it really changes the game. And at 2-0, Manchester United didn't look comfortable as if they were going to ride out the game. They always seemed like there was a chance for Sunderland to get back in it. I know we said there wasn't a feast of shots in the second half. But certainly, you had the feeling that if one went in for Sunderland, if one could break through for an Isidore or Mayenda Enzo Lafitte could conjure up a little bit of the magic that we know he has, and he didn't really show today, which it was a disappointment because we wanted to see him in that more central role for so long. Got the chance and didn't really grab it with both hands. Not to say that I think Enzo did anything particularly wrong today, but yeah. Yeah, so can't say anything more really than what Sophie said. It's all about what if. What if certain little things had gone a different way? It could have been a very different game. But what is it? As if if my uncle had wheels, it'd be a shopping trolley or something like that. It's somebody far more eloquent than myself said. Anyway, yeah, never mind. You just write that one off. I honestly, I expected it to be 4 or 5, the way it had gone at halftime. I still think, unfortunately, in this league, there is one of them in it, waiting for us somewhere. One of those absolute shellackins. But thankfully, today wasn't the day for that.
I think that was the positive one of the positives we could take from it. Sorry, I know it's maybe not a positive as such, but it did only finish at 2-0 because when that second goal comes in after we'd been peppered, we were all thinking and all talking, going, this could be 4 or 5 here if we don't sort this out.
Well, Ross, I think we do have to look at it as more of a positive because, again, look, you're going to lose games in the Premier League. Nobody goes unbeaten at all. Even, look at some of those teams that have, I know some people have gone unbeaten in the past, but there's nobody really, it's a massive thing when it happens. So you're going to lose games as a Premier League team, and Sunderland looked like a Premier League team today. They held their own against Manchester United and lost a game of football. They didn't get battered and humiliated. So I think that is a positive that we can take, especially going into the season, what we may have feared was coming.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I think that's a good perspective to have. Sophie, we mentioned a bit about what did we just get wrong, etc. Obviously, we don't want to be too harsh on him, given how great he's been lately. Let's be honest, and his tactical nous as such has been fantastic. There was a few changes to the starting lineup. Traore was in over Talby, which to me was a bit of the biggest shock. Dingra came in for Rig, and to be honest, I half expected Gertruda to get a go after he bigged him up in the press as well, especially with a few question marks over Maswak, as mentioned. Any of them a bit of a when you first seen the lineup? Were you a bit shocked at that? What did you think of it when you initially seen the lineup, and how do you think it went?
Yeah, I was quite shocked at it actually because I'd seen that about Gertrude and I thought it was coming that he was going to come into the side. But when I saw that it was a Dinker and Traore, what I did initially think is, we're going to hit them on the break. We're going to hit them quick, getting down the sides of them, low balls in the box. I just thought that, a Dinker is quite a direct attacker. I think we saw it when he's come on in impacted games as well, is that he'll run at people. And I thought, brilliant. But what almost happened today was the pendulum swung. That's how I felt. And they were almost playing us our own game, which is counter-attacking, pulling people out of positions and then running down and kind of exploiting the space. And I just felt like our attackers, particularly, even though I do think that Traore I think he had a good game. You get beat, so no one has an outstanding game, probably apart from Roos, but he let in 2 goals. But I just thought that maybe there was something there that was wrong. So yeah, it's a difficult one because I thought I would have played the same midfield.
Yeah, I think especially with the calls to get Lafay in there because we know how creative he can be when he gets on the ball in them positions. And Pete mentioned it earlier. That was a frustration today that the players that we know the quality they've got, they just didn't show it in the big moments. And my personal opinion on when I seen the team was I thought it was quite harsh on Talby and Rig. Rig, I could kind of understand it more to get Lafay in that central position and get that creativity. But Talby for me has been one that's, if it had happened 3 weeks ago and he was dropped, I could understand it because I did think he was a slow burner to start off with. But then against Villa and against Forest, to me, he was one of our hardest working players, especially when he went out on that left hand side, and I just felt like it just felt a bit weird to me, a bit random. But again, it's clearly been a plan that just hasn't been executed correctly or worked. So if it came off, and you mentioned there about the counter attack, Sophie, I think everybody had seen that and had the same assumption. Right, we're going to sit in a low block here, and we're just going to try and pick them off, let them have the ball, and then pick them off on the counter attack. We're pacing behind and be penetrative down the wings, but it just didn't come off, did it? Dave, we've kind of mentioned it all there, but were you feeling the same really, or were you having any other thoughts really on the starting 11, and of course we haven't even mentioned Rig really. Would he have made a difference in the centre of that midfield?
The one thing I would say is more to do with Enzo Lafia. And I think one thing that people need to realise and realise quickly, especially in the Premier League, and it's happened for years, and we've never been very good at recognising it, the work that people do off the ball. Lafia out on that wing, yes, we want him more central. We know he's got the clever reverse pass and stuff like that. However, his work rate off the ball is phenomenal. Same with Talby as well. The Patrick Roberts has gone, but the graph that he used to put in back in the day out on the wing was phenomenal, and we have to recognise how important that is. My favourite statistic when I'm coaching football to kids, adults, whatever. What is the average? What is the average time a footballer has on the ball in a match? 6 to 8 minutes. 6 to 8 minutes of the football, which then tells you if you play a full game for 82 minutes, you don't have it. And that tells you how important it is to be grafting your arse off. We've left Masuaku exposed today. There's no two ways about that. Yes, you can say it's tactically and stuff like that. You can also say that he's not the greatest defender, which West Ham fans told us about, let's be honest. But it's so important. I like Lafay out on that left because he's terrier-like. He's absolutely terrier-like. I think Adringa, we were told again from Brighton fans that he might be a little bit frustrating at times. And I think you guys have nailed it, to be honest. I think Labrie was maybe just a little bit overconfident this week. Maybe he's just got into the media hype a little bit. We all have. I mean, it's funny that my little TikTok sketch was missed out because I think I said 2-0 to United, didn't I? In the hope that we'd win 2-1, by the way. But I think we said we'd get beat 2-0, and it's nothing bad. It's frustrating. I think you nailed it at the beginning, Roscoe. Frustrating is very much the word, but it's not bad to be expecting to go to Manchester United and get a result. The result doesn't disappoint me. Certain aspects of the performance do.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment of it all. And we've kind of touched on it already, but definitely a positive that Labrie recognised it straight away, didn't let it go on past half time. And if we have had any damage limitation, then even better, really, isn't it? Then the goal difference has stayed intact. We've only lost 2 instead of 4 or 5, which it looked like. And just quickly, Dave, as we mentioned there, the back five seems to become a real thing, especially Ronaldo's suspension. I think it could be one that we may even start with against Wolves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't believe I'm saying it because I used to be an old 4-4-2 guy, but football moves on, doesn't it? Football moves on, and I'm a big fan of a 3-3-5-2. I think it gives you solidity through the middle, and I think if you can get your foot in the game, it gives you a load of attacking options with them extra men. The one thing that you cannot do nowadays is give away territorial advantage in any area of the pitch, especially the central areas. There's so many good players out there, and you have to get side to side on the pitch and get those numerical advantages defensively, because as we've seen today, when you've got world class wingers like Ahmad, and I will wax lyrical about him because we all know that we love him and stuff, but it was a good performance. And if you can expose him to one-on-one with any defender, let alone someone who's probably still searching for a bit of match fitness, who isn't the greatest defender in the world, you can see what happens. And 3-5-2, I don't have a problem with it personally.
Yeah, there's plenty of variations in there. You could always push Rig or Lafay up there, as well as the extra 10, as it's called these days. The CEM, the cam roll, as it used to be now known as the 10. Wonder what it'll be in 10 years. It'll probably, or the new one is the second striker. I just thought it was 2 strikers, to be honest, one in behind the other, but I'm getting on now. I'm showing my age. The penalties decisions, we'll have to mention them. Sophie, you were in the ground, so what did you think when he took his time to give it mine, didn't he? The Hume one.
Yeah, he did. You know, it's hard because I was flat on with it, so I couldn't see the other angle of it not hitting him. I thought it hit him. He went down, so I was there, you know, screaming and shouting, being very unladylike, going, "Give it a penalty! It's a penalty!" But you know, I've seen it back, and you know, he doesn't touch him. So, but you know what? The second one, I think that probably was after I've seen it back, and the fact that they didn't check for that one when Traore was brought down, I thought that was quite odd. I don't know how you all saw it, but I thought that was odd that that wasn't given.
Definitely, I think that the Hume one, when you first look at it, you're like, that's got to be a penalty. He's kicked him in the face. I think what Hume actually, in the most untrue Hume thing ever, him over exaggerating in the same way we've got to be consistent here. We slagged off the Nottingham Forest lad last week for doing exactly the same. So that's why he doesn't get the penalty because he goes on as if he's been kicked in the face. But the irony is, if he goes up for a header anywhere else on the pitch and the player's foot is that high, you probably do get a free kick for high foot. I know it's, let's be honest, if that's given against us as a penalty, I'm like, that is never a penalty in a million years, and I'm livid. But it just shows how murky stuff is. So we'll go on to the Traore incident where, let's be honest, he gets totally sandwiched between Lamens and Fernandez. You're watching it at first, the referee blows, and you're like, keeper's off. The keeper's gone here. He's totally wiped him out. Then he pulls out a yellow card, and you're thinking, how's that only a yellow? And then out of nowhere, poor Traore, who, to be fair to him, he grafted today, but nothing really came off for him. Then gets booked, and he's accused of simulation, and that's literally his last act on the pitch as he's then getting subbed off 10 seconds later. So it was a rough 40 seconds or so for Traore. But then you look at the replay, and you mentioned VAR not looking at it. Not only does Lamens touch him after, but it's actually Bruno Fernandes who makes the contact with Traore's leg, and it's not simulation. He's been hit on the leg by Fernandez. He's then been, as he's gone down, been shoved on the arm by Lamens, and it's quite clearly a foul, and it's quite clearly denying a goal scoring opportunity because he gets past them two, he's putting that into an empty net. So the the thing that baffled me is, why did VAR not look at it? Pete, do you have any idea why VAR didn't look at it?
Um, I've got no idea at all why VAR didn't want to have a look at that. I am absolutely in the same agreement. The first one, Trey Hume one, not a penalty. Second one, it beggars belief why it wasn't looked at. I'm not as au fait with all of the more modern or changes in the rules as it's a lot of the other team here, rest of the team here. I'm not coaching anybody in any leagues anywhere in the world, so I don't really have to be all up on it. But it just seems to me like it was a penalty. It looked like a penalty. And the point of VAR is supposed to be if something looks a certain way, don't we go and check it when it can be especially a major moment in a match, like Sunderland potentially getting back into it. Not a clue. I haven't heard any statements either of what potentially the referees on the field thought they saw. But yeah, beggars belief why it wasn't looked into.
Yeah, and you mentioned a penalty there. I think I've seen a few saying, "Oh, well, it was outside the box," but I'm sure denying a goal scoring opportunity can still be looked at by VAR. And if it can't be, then what the hell's the point in VAR? Let's be honest. It's so inconsistent. Dave would touch about the same, but I'm guessing your thoughts are pretty similar and just as perplexed as why it wasn't even looked at more than anything.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the one, isn't it? Just why wasn't it looked at? We all know how the football gods work, and I guarantee you something similar across football happens the same next weekend, and it's a penalty or it's a red card or it's a free kick outside the box and it's checked. It's how it works. it's what drives us all mad. Inconsistency. It's absolutely wild. But that doesn't deflect away from the fact that I think Reggie LeBrie, classy as ever, his post-match interview, it means nothing. Things like that mean absolutely nothing. We got it wrong today, and that's how it is. That's not why we got beat. Referee decisions. We got beat because of our own problems. So fair play to him.
Yeah, I think that is good by Reggie Slippery because you never want to get in a tit for tat, and we know we're gonna the way the inconsistencies are, as you mentioned, we should get something back by VAR or the referees in the Premier League or in the country, I should say. It's hard just to say the Premier League these days. But yeah, it is frustrating because even if it's not a penalty, Man United go down to 10 men for the last 20 minutes. A bit of nerves, there's nothing to say we would have got back in the game. There's no guarantee whatsoever, and especially the way of our finishing was, which we did mention the two chances we had near the end, the Talby one especially. God just hit it either side of the goalkeeper, and he hits it straight at him.
That was
So
the
yeah,
one. That was the fourth one. That was the one I forgot to talk about. Yeah, he has to score, doesn't he?
you probably just wanted to erase it from your mind because at that point you're just watching it go. Just end the game. Just get it over and done with because we could be here till Christmas and we wouldn't have scored. It felt like one of them. It's in the one where my end is just like you can just see human. It just pass it. Oh, he's shot. Why with his right foot as well? Why is he shot with his right foot? But all them things, like you say, Reggie Slibbery would say it's done. It wasn't the reason we lost, and he'd be bang on. Let's be honest. So all said and done, I've seen a bit of discourse on the old Twitter. Was it a reality check, Pete? Or was it just one of them games where you go away from home to an established, not just established Premier League team, one of the biggest clubs in the world, albeit they're in a bit of a transitional phase, but it's just one of them defeats, isn't it?
I'm thinking about it by looking at the fixture list when it first came out back in the summer of going, if we'd had all of the scores written in as they are now going through, I wouldn't even blink going past United away in a 2-0 defeat. After the way the game went, after the way Sunderland started against the team that Manchester United are, the club that they are, if you speak about the club as an entity, as a global sporting giant, even this current side that is full of absolutely world-class players that just aren't firing. They were playing all right today. They didn't play brilliantly today, but they played better than Sunderland and they deserved the win. As I said, I've got full confidence that Lebris and the coaching staff will take some lessons from that. They'll realise what they got wrong. Hopefully, they learn those lessons quickly because there is no reprieve in the Premier League because, Wolves next week isn't going to be an easy match again at all. And it is one we're going to be going into thinking, probably fancy something from that. Nice way to bounce back. But Wolves aren't going to be any type of pushover. So hopefully they just lick the wounds, learn the lessons, move on. Wolves next week.
It's the week after, unfortunately, another
Week after,
international
even
break.
because the international breaks.
Ah,
Stupid international football.
it just seems to be every 2 or 3 weeks now, doesn't it? The international breaks. But yeah, back onto the what we were speaking about. I think you bang on, especially with the players they signed in the summer. You were like, God, they can't be that bad. But I think as well, I mentioned it not to blow my own trumpet in our predictions video that Graham put out. The Man United home form and away form are chalk and cheese. They have only lost one home game this season, and that was to the league leaders Arsenal in a game that, let's be honest, they dominated and they had plenty of chances to get something from. So I was always wary about getting swept up in this whole Amorim's going to lose his job if they lose, etc. When if we were at the Stadium of Light, I could probably get amongst it and be like, oh, here we are. But unfortunately, it was at Old Trafford, which is becoming a good little place for them. Little place for them as if it wasn't packed out at 75,000. Who am I kidding? You know what I
My
mean?
garden shed is bigger than this. Anyway, and Ross, don't worry about blowing your trumpet. How's anybody else going to know you've got a trumpet if you don't blow it every now and again?
Exactly, exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. Sophie, how do you feel about the? Does it feel like a bubbles burst a bit? Is it a bit? Or you just slowly deflated, or you're just like, well, it is what it is, and we move on.
It's one of them, as Mowbray would like to say, we put it in the bin. It doesn't matter. We move on. It's not one of those days where, we've already alluded to it, where we've been embarrassed. We've gone to Old Trafford away. Second half was better than the first, but you know what? We got a lot of things wrong. It doesn't matter. There'll be easier games, I hope, but we're there for a reason. We're above certain teams for a reason. Let's not try and belittle the results that we've already had and how hard the team's already worked. These lads, like Dave said, they care and there's quality there as well. So, you know what? We pick ourselves up, we dust ourselves off. Lessons will have been learnt, like it's already been said. The players will have learnt, they've got a new experience. And Reggie's never coached at this level before. So also let's give him a bit of grace as well. He'll have learnt from it. And, we take that forward. And we've got Wolves, which is hopefully a more winnable game than this one.
I like it. I think you're very, very how can I say it? Professional in the way you said it there, Sophie. I think it is about Labrie learning on the job because it is kind of taken for granted how good he has been and how quickly he's adapted. But not just him, the whole backroom staff, they're going to be learning on the job. They're probably all getting new ideas in there about how things are changing. And I think again we have mentioned it quite a few times here, but maybe we got a bit brave and we tried something a bit more expansive today, in which we will learn from. Next up, as been mentioned, Wolves. Reynaldo is unfortunately still suspended. It's his last game as his suspension. With that international break, it does feel like a very, very, very long suspension for him. Bless him. I say bless him as if I wasn't ready to absolutely kill him after bloody Villa when he got sent off. I was like, "What are you doing?" But now I'm like, "Please come back. Please come fill the left back position." Dave, we kind of mentioned earlier about the back five. How would you set up against Villa? Villa, not Villa. Wolves.
I'd certainly change it. He's tried something this week; it hasn't worked. There's a few things to address. One thing, in terms of today's result and stuff like that, we're 7 points clear of the bottom three. I'll take it. I'll take it all day long. We're 11 points out of 7 games. I'll take that all day long. There's plenty of positives. This is not a bubble burst type of moment. This is not, I don't think we've got it in our arsenal to panic. I don't think that's how Reggie works. He could be staring down the barrel and I don't think he'd panic whatsoever and he'd walk out with class if he got it completely wrong. The Wolves game, there is the option of a back three, but then there's Gertruda, who I really like. There's something really classy about that bloke. Really, really classy. I'm not quite sure whether he could excel at left back, but he's big, he's strong, he's physical, he's quite good on the ball. I have no problem with however they play it. Ronaldo is a big miss. I can't believe what was the caption that we saw on Twitter a couple of weeks ago before the red card. One of the biggest flops of the summer or something. I'm just like, what? Like, tell me that you don't watch Sunderland without telling me you don't watch Sunderland, because he unfortunately proves me wrong. But he's professional. Thanks for that, Ronaldo. You've made me look a right dick with that, even though I've said it after the occurrence of said situation. He definitely delivers a standard. He's classy. He brings an experience to the team, which is absolutely massive. You don't go and play however many games under Diego Simeone without having something about you. And in terms of how we need to defend when we go away from home, I think he's massive. I think he's absolutely massive, because one thing that needs addressing is we don't score many goals away from home. We've only getting one all season. I think that means we then have to go to the Michael Bowers School of Football and we have to keep clean sheets. We have to keep clean sheets with the expectation of nabbing the odd goal. So, for me personally, if you put me on the spot, I'd probably go the whole 4-5-1. I'd certainly change the personnel and I'd probably put Gertruda at left back because I just want to see more of him, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think there would be definitely things for Reggie's to think about, and he will be seeing the likes of Gertruda a lot more with the international break. so it's another couple of weeks of training. Um, so got a few listeners' questions that we put out, and to be fair, I think a lot of them are on the same lines that we spoke about, but just following on from that, we went for the first question here from the Guzzler SCFC, the Guinness Guzzler. Said the biggest issue for me was no Talby, who was good defensively. Also, Masuaku wasn't great defensively, so I don't think him and Adingra were a great combination. Wish we'd started 5-3-2 and think it could be good for us, but appreciate RLB hasn't normally started like that. That is a point that you mentioned there, Dave, but I'll pass this on to Pete. He's never started a game 5-3-2, but we have ended it now on 3 occasions. Do you think it might just be one that we like to go to during the game, if possible?
He
Or because
has,
he's never
yeah,
really wavered from it, Sunderland, has he, from his four at the back?
he likes the four at the back, and he's also spoken. We've heard him talk about these finishers, these players that he will bring off, and with these players that he brings on, it's later stages of the match in order to try and get a result or hold a result or whatever it is, whatever it needs in that particular match. I wouldn't be surprised if he has that three centre half formation with wing back set as the finishing formation. I would be probably inclined to agree with Dave that he sticks with the four at home. He brings in Gertruda in the left back position because when you've got Masuaku and Adringa, you've not got a tackle between them on that whole left hand side. So I think he will start with the four, and he'll start. I hope he starts with Gertruda there. This is going to be a big call considering how much of a colossus he's been. I would be tempted, based on his performance today, to even swap Andretti with Ballard just to start it that way because I think he's played an awful lot of football. He's travelled an awful lot since arriving in the UK, and I don't think he was the player today that we've seen in terms of just being. He's a huge, huge guy. In order to move as quickly as he does, must take a hell of a lot out of him, and he was slower today than he needed to be. I would be. It would be a massive call, but I thought Dan Ballard gave us something a little bit extra that they weren't getting from Aldretti when Ballard came on. It was quite clear. I would be happy also though with him starting that back three because I thought it looked good. And if the option is, and he's not seeing what he needs to see from Gertruda, and this is again, it all comes back to the fact that Regis has so much in the bank with me and with most other Sunderland fans that I'm going to trust whatever he goes with because he sees the players week in, week out, day in, day out in training. So I would be happy if he went with either of those because he'll have seen which one it is. But if he's going to play, if it's Arthur who's going to come in on the left hand side, I want to see it in a back five with the three centre halves and him as a wing back because yeah, I know he was exposed a lot today, but we were told there isn't a great defender in there, but he's a very good wing back and he's very good going forward. So hopefully we can see some of that if it does turn out to be him that gets the nod. I think Regis will go with the back four. I hope it's with Gertrude.
Yeah, just following on that, we had another listener's reply from Andrew Pinky, Aspie80 on Twitter. He said, I think even before the game should have went with a back 3-5. We missed the work of Talby and Enzo on the wings. Looked more secure after the break. Could that be that United felt the game was won? If we could have held out defensively for longer, could have played in our hands. I think that's one for me as well. If we mentioned before the what ifs, if you could just make that crowd get a bit nervous, that would be what was annoying for me. Um, One for you, Sophie. Pretty much put from Snowden 05 Jack. What went wrong? Is it as easy as that?
Too
What
much.
what changed between Forest and today? Because listen to it, we had a fair few chances, but we just couldn't finish them properly. Not overly worried. We are still top end of the table, but there's tomorrow's games yet to be played. I think that's a bit. I understand Jack's question about the chances, but we just didn't finish them properly. But I do think he's right to say not overly worried as we're still at the top end of the table, which we would have been delighted with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's just one of them. It's just one of them days. You know, Peter already said about the Ballard chance. I thought that had gone in. And when that didn't go in, I thought, and obviously we didn't get the penalty, I thought it's just one of them days where we're just not going to be able to find the back of the net. I think at times we looked a little bit too pedestrian. And I think that's a bit of a worry away from home, particularly because when you're in the Stadium of Light and everyone's roaring on and everyone's going, we're almost hurrying them up as well to take throw-ins, to be quick about it, move the ball, move with the ball. And today, I think we had just too much time on the ball, and it was a bit pedestrian. It was a bit slow, and it's not as fluid as what we've seen. But I think that's because they were almost countering us, and I think we all know that we're a bit rubbish when we've got possession or too much possession because we don't really play that way. But you know what? A lot of things went wrong, but I wouldn't stress about being in the top half. It's great to be there, but realistically, are we going to finish there? Or do we expect to finish there? Because I certainly don't. So I wouldn't worry about it. Let's move on from it.
Yeah, give me 17th and end the season now for me. I'll take that every day of the week. People might say that's pessimistic, but our first season back after so long, just stay up. I don't care where we finish. It's been great so far. Don't get me wrong, but definitely just stay up. Just want another one here, and I'll give this one to Dave. It is quite forgotten about, and the flag was put up for offside of Adingra, but after seeing the replays from my stream, Delict was playing Adingra onside, so I think VAR would overturned it. How did Traore miss that opening chance? Won't get a better chance all season. It was forgotten about that if that goes in, it's a whole different game. That's within the first 5 minutes, isn't it, Dave?
Absolutely. They talk about match fitness and match sharpness. That's exactly what that is. That's exactly what is from a player who has been a bit part player for a season and not been involved in first team minutes. Unfortunately, you have to be switched on every single second of the Premier League. And yeah, it would have been interesting, VAR pulling it back and giving us the lines and stuff like that. But you're completely right. It's the perfect start to an away game, isn't it? Going 1-0 up at Old Trafford, silencing the crowd, getting them on the back. But hey, if I get in the right lottery numbers, I'll be a millionaire. So one of them, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're being a bit nice of him there, to be honest. I'd call it an old-fashioned sitter, to be honest. Professional footballer from that range. I'd expect to at least get a shot on target, but maybe I'm being a bit cynical there. And one thing I'd just like to point out though is that 2 games we've lost away from home, where we arguably should have been 1-0 up within the first few minutes, and we just haven't took that chance, and then you've been punished. It just shows how you may get away with it in the Championship, but if you don't take your gilt-edged chances in the Premier League when you're on the road, especially against the likes of Man United, okay, Burnley. To be fair, it was probably the worst time to play Burnley. The first home game back in the Premier League, they were up for it massively. Like we seen what the atmosphere was like against West Ham at home. But yeah, it is just them chances. You've got to make sure if they come to you finish them. And I don't want to end it on that note, but so I want a bit of positivity, and I think a bit of, how can I say it, a bit of level-headedness. We are on 11 points from 7 games. We have played Man United away, Forest away, Palace away. We've had Villa at home. We've had Brentford and West Ham at home, who are, let's be honest, all well-established Premier League clubs. 3 of them are in Europe. One of them was a Europa League finalist last season and has spent over about 200 million. And we've been competitive in every game. We're going to have games where, like today, it's just going to be one of them games, and we're just, especially away from home, I think we will get beat sometimes quite comfortably because that's just the Premier League for you. But we've proven, especially at home, we are a good enough team, in my opinion, to be competitive against everyone with the full stadium like behind us. After today, the international break might actually come at a good point, so we can kind of erase it from our memory. Then we next game is back at the Stadium of Light against a Wolves side who, let's be honest, they're going to be fighting for their lives like us. We can get a packed crowd behind them. Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff, clean slate, and a big Premier League occasion once again. And I think it's we go again. I think that's the way I think I'd like to end it. To be honest, unless anybody else has got anything to add to it, because I'm blowing my own trumpet again, Pete. I
You
think
you
that's a
are
good way to end it.
absolutely keep blowing that trumpet. I think that's a really positive note to end on. The only thing I wanted to add, and I keep forgetting to add it every time I'm on, I wasn't here last week, is to say a massive thanks to Scott from UK Border Force for being incredibly nice at getting my mother-in-law and wife and daughter and me across when we went through Tynemouth, who took my passports and went, "Are you that one from the podcast?" And it's always a bit of a faff when we're handing over German, Chinese, and all kinds of other passports and everything like that. So thanks very much. That made my day, made my mother-in-law's trip over to the UK as well a little bit as well. So thanks very much for that. And a massive positive though, Ross. There, I'm all for it, mate. Let's go. I can't wait. Bring on Wolves. Just get this international football out the way first.
So much better when you complain about getting beat off Man United 2-0 away than that. Oh God, I cannot believe we couldn't beat Gillingham this week. No offense,
Oh,
Gillingham.
dear
We're,
me.
we're waffling now. Have you got anyone else got anything to add before we end the pod?
Well, I just want to say, Ross, well done for stepping in. Graham's travelling, and you are now quite clearly, comfortably, the third best host of this show. So well done, mate, on your second appearance. Really, really proud of that. And I won't say anything else on Pete's human trafficking charges. So yeah, all the best.
And that is the perfect way to end it. Thank you all for listening.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.